Welcome to the Personal History Hub. This video is the 13th Civil Rights Content video, and we're going to be looking at the events that happened in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. So there's a quick map of where Birmingham is within America and within the state of Alabama, as you can see on the map. So what actually was the background to these events in Birmingham? So the civil rights issue seemed to be exploding by 1963. Trouble had started in the city of Birmingham in Alabama, and in order to avoid desegregating its parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, golf courses, they simply closed them all. So they were so unwilling to desegregate these public places that rather than opening them integrated, they just shut them for everyone, white and black. The SCLC sought to challenge the city with something that they called Project C. The C stood for confrontation, so Project C, Project Confrontation, which would use the tactic of sit-ins, marches to help to press for desegregation at lunch counters initially, but then ideas changed. It was hoped that the demonstrations would achieve maximum publicity across the whole of the USA. So they specifically picked Birmingham because they thought it was one of the most segregated cities in America. Birmingham had a population of about 350,000, of whom 150,000 were Black Americans. King hoped to mobilise a large number of them in planned demonstrations. So what actually happened? What were the events in Birmingham? So the demonstrations began on the 3rd of April 1963, and by the 6th of April some activists were arrested. They chose Birmingham because it was completely segregated and because Black Americans had often been attacked there. The city was nicknamed Birmingham due to the regular bombing of Black churches, homes and businesses. Police Chief Bull Connor closed all public parks and playgrounds. He was known for being particularly harsh on Black Americans and for speaking out against the civil rights movement and against desegregation. This prompted King to address a large rally at which he said it was better to go to jail in dignity rather than just accept segregation. King was arrested in a further demonstration on the 12th of April and jailed for defying a ban on marches. He was arrested on Good Friday, and during his short stay in prison he wrote "Letter from Birmingham Jail." This letter became one of the most famous documents of the civil rights movement, and many see it as one of the most powerful in history. Once again, King explained why African Americans were tired and angry at their humiliating treatment in their own country. He pointed out how citizens of the new independent countries in Africa and Asia had more rights than African Americans did in America, and that progress was excruciatingly slow in the USA. In the letter, King also wrote how he understood that people were impatient for change. He stressed that many in the USA had no idea of the fears that African Americans had, and that these fears began early in life and were felt by all, young, old, male, female. He was keen to point out how the police did little or nothing to stop the hatred and violence, and in fact often committed violence themselves against African Americans. Most importantly, King pointed out the fact that there was tremendous poverty amongst African Americans in a country of incredible wealth. So this infamous picture from the demonstrations in Birmingham shows how police treated some of the activists. The event worsened. The situation worsened by King's release from jail on the 20th of April. It was decided that children and students, the youngest was 6, would be used in demonstrations, and this seemed to change the methods used by the police. On the 3rd of May, Police Chief Connor allowed his men to set dogs on the protesters, as in seen in the picture on the previous slide, and then called in the fire department to use powerful hoses. Connor placed almost 2,000 demonstrators in jail, and around 1,300 children were arrested. There was concern about students missing school. TV crews captured the events, and these images were seen not only across the USA, but all over the world. Photographs of the demonstration and police reaction were published in national newspapers. This gave King all the publicity that he wanted. It showed the violence of the authorities in the face of peaceful demonstrations. By the 3rd of May, there was chaos in Birmingham. So that shows the fire hoses being used against demonstrators. Some of them were children as well. So President Kennedy's involvement. It was at this stage that President Kennedy became involved. He sent Assistant Attorney General Burke Marshall to mediate between the parties in the hope of finding a solution. Desegregation was eventually introduced in Birmingham. A consequence of the violence was Kennedy's decision to bring in a civil rights bill. He stated that the events in Birmingham have so increased the cries for equality that no city or state legislative body can prudently choose to ignore them, and that events in Birmingham had damaged America. Talks between King and the Birmingham city leaders brought a settlement by the 9th of May, and it was agreed that desegregation would take place in the city within 90 days. On that same day, 11th of June 1963, Medgar Evers, leader of the Mississippi NAACP, was sadly shot dead in Jackson by a white sniper. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to the History Hub. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the March on Washington and how these events at Birmingham helped to lead to the March on Washington.